Welcome back to the Win and In podcast. I'm your host, Max P, as always, and I'm joined today by Kevin, aka VarrakS. Is it VarrakS? VarrakS? Yeah.
VarrakS, I guess. VarrakS would be probably the official way to say it, but I don't think anyone's ever said that.
Nice. Well, how you doing, man? How's life treating you? What's going on?
Yeah, doing great. Been playing a bunch of Magic, having a bunch of fun. Recently, I picked up Yidris again. For those that don't know, that was like a huge project back in 2023. I was like, there's got to be a way to beat Blue Farm other than Rogsai.
Nice.
I
I always thought of you as the Yidris guy, right? So it makes sense that you've gone back to your home.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we're going to have an interesting conversation tonight. We're going to look at some of the new cards from Dragonstorm and then try to make some predictions about what's going to happen with the cEDH panel later in April. Could be interesting. But before we get into any of that, I want to take a minute to call out some of the bigger, what I think more interesting cEDH tournaments that are coming up. The first one is the Heisenberg, which is actually going to be in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's a 10K. It's being hosted by Freedom Waffle, is the TO for this event, held by the Tavern of Souls Gaming. So pretty cool event. They're going to be doing prize. It gets a free entry to Steel City Spectacular, the 20K, coming up in August, which is the second event I'll talk about for a minute. But this is a really cool event, the Heisenberg. Highly recommend people go check it out. I am going to be there, so please come say hi to me. Come LobbyCon a bit, have some fun.
Yeah, I'm super jealous. I bet all the marketing on that one just looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. They already got like 50 people registered. The cap is 200. So definitely we need more people to sign up to really max it out. But it's going to be a good time. So shout out to Freedom for putting that together. It's going to be a good time. And then the other one, of course, is the Steel City Spectacular, which is a whole other level of event completely.
Say that one 10 times fast.
Yeah, the Steel City Spectacular. That's actually being hosted by Baldy, who is, by the way, the judge for the Heisenberg. Is going to be Baldy's the head judge. And then he's running the Steel City Spectacular in Pittsburgh, which is also going to be the site where the Invitational is going to be on the same weekend. But they're doing, they got so many events, it's kind of nuts. So the 20K is the main event, but they're also having legacy events, I think Friday and Saturday. They're having vintage events. They're having, mini tournaments left and right. So it's going to be, something for everybody. It's not just cEDH. So it's going to be a good time.
Nice.
So highly recommend people check that out. Hopefully I'll be there for the Invitational, but I'm not locked in yet. So,
Yeah, there's only about a 90% chance. I don't know.
Dude, I don't know. I need some more points, man. I need some more points. So hopefully I go to the Heisenberg and do well there, and that gets me enough points so I don't have to worry anymore. So with that, I mean, let's jump into talking about some of these cards. I don't know about you, but I think this is one of the more busted sets I've seen in a while.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, if we're talking about bans later on, I don't know, maybe you need to stick around like you said. But really ever since the big bans, I was like, man, I feel like we just need one set with some exciting stuff. Give us some new toys and we'll forget about some of the old ones, or at least like it won't feel so painful.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like this really is the set for that. And I'm stoked to talk about some of these.
Especially because we had like Bloomburrow. And Bloomburrow had a lot of good cards in it, but not cards that help you break through. There were more cards that kind of contributed to the mid-range sort of hell that we're all living in now. The flash enablers, that kind of thing. More draw engines. And we need something that would break through. And I think that's what the set really delivers is some breakthrough cards, some higher level busted win the game shit.
Yeah.
The first one I think let's talk about is, I guess to start with just the opposite, right? I don't know what the official name. Do you know what the name for this card is? Like if I go to a Scryfall, it calls it the Deafening Dragon, but I don't think that's the real name.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was funny because like in the show notes you have the Japanese version here. I was like, wait, what? Is this the only version that's been spoiled? So I think I've seen Deafening Dragon, but maybe that was just someone kind of taking that loose translation and slapping it on with like the old Photoshop.
Yeah. yeah. But what it is it's a dragon, obviously, but it's a white and 2. It's a 3/3 flyer, and it says that activated abilities of artifacts, creatures, and planeswalkers can't be activated. So I was saying cards that break through. This is not a card that breaks through. This is a card that stops everyone from doing, anything. But it's like a good stacks piece though, because it's got the right cost. It's a 3-drop like all good stacks pieces are. It's symmetrical, so it's not completely busted. It shuts down so many different things, and I think it's a strong stacks piece that you have to put in the right deck. You can't just put it in anything. What do you think?
Yeah, so actually I was just trying to search something up real quick because something came to mind as I was listening to you kind of talk about this one. What I feel like this card might find a really, really powerful place in the shell for Al, the Dawn Sky. That's a deck that wins with Nim Deathmantle. And I think, but obviously you're not going to be going through your whole loop here. You're not able to activate artifacts, right? Actually, I'm pretty sure that's a triggered ability, just like the commander is. Like it's a death triggered ability.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you can find a list where like all of the shutdown isn't totally just backbreaking for you as well, really a deck with a bunch of lands that's just trying to go the distance and not artifact lands, I guess, or Dryad Arbors. I feel like Al the Dawn Sky might be like a really sick comeback.
Interesting, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking like Jetmir is the first one that comes to mind when I look at it. It's a great attacker, flying 3/3. Jetmir doesn't need activated abilities; it just needs lots of creatures in play, right? So it seems like it would fit there. But it's a cool card.
That's a really good point. Same goes for like Winota. I guess it comically turns on your Mox if you want to play that, but it also turns it off because it's the dragon sometimes that you can't activate it. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah. But cool card. I don't think it's going to like change cEDH at all. It's going to find home in a couple of sort of fringe stacks. I'm sure Charles, Mono White Guy, will find a home for this card. I guarantee it. But other than that, I don't think we'll see it that much. The next card, though, I think we are going to see everywhere. And that's the new Grand Abolisher, the Voice of Victory.
Oh, yeah. I saw this one get spoiled. I was like, no, not another one. I guess to your point earlier where like you mentioned, I'm kind of like the Yidris guy. So Sands White is where I have the most fun brewing, the most fun playing. And of course, the largest weakness is just you don't get access to these Grand Abolisher effects. So you feel like, especially when you're in those mid-range hell pods where you just need that one thing to kind of push through. I was a little bit jealous of this one, not going to lie. They couldn't have made it green. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because everyone calls it the new Grand Abolisher, but it's kind of more like the new Cutzel. Because it doesn't have that turn off all activated abilities thing. It's just a silence on a creature is really what it is, right? No one can cast spells in your turn, but they can still activate abilities. They can still crack treasures. They can still do anything that's not an actual spell, which is a huge downside, honestly, because how many times, if you've played Cutzel, if people have played Cutzel, you have those turns where like you have everything you need and you're going to win. You play your Cutzel, now you've got protection, and you start going through the process of thinking through all the things that you have to play around. And the number of things you have to play around when they can still activate abilities is just so much higher. It just makes it so much harder to win.
Yeah. I mean, that is definitely true. Obviously, I think the shell or the commander that like really gets most excited about this card is going to be Najeela, just because it fixes so much of that warrior math. So some of the thoughts I had, I was like, because it seems like Turbo Najeela, although that's obviously my preferred variant, I don't know if that's in the best spot exactly, but even outside of like a full send Turbo Shell, my thought was if you're able to play this Voice of Victory and then also play a couple of those extra turn effects, it very easily looks like you don't have the critical mass of warriors when you play the Voice of Victory. And then it's that extra step of thought required from your opponents to see like, okay, wait a minute, how many warriors is he actually making? Because even though the two that this one's going to make are going to go away, the two that Najeela makes don't. Right? So slamming this plus Final Fortune, I think is going to be wild.
Yeah, I think, and that's what I think the upside of this card is kind of insane. You know, not even just the Gila. If you're playing a Tymna deck, you know, you've got 2 attackers that are going to draw you cards off of this. You know, if you're playing, for example, I was thinking like, oh, I have Delny in play. Now I'm getting 4 warriors, right? Because it's going to trigger twice.
Oh my gosh,
right?
I didn't even think of that. That's
right?
crazy.
So a lot of these Tymna decks that are not necessarily Tymna Crom really benefit from this. You know, if you're running Tymna Kadama, for example, right? Think about Tymna Kadama. You swing with this. You create 2 warriors, 2 Kadama triggers, put 2 1/1s into play, trigger, put 2 lands into play. Like it just goes nuts. You know, the question though is, okay, am I going to be able to play this card and have the whole table not freak out and destroy me immediately? Right? Are they gonna? Can I sell them on the value voice of victory?
I'm just gonna let everyone know if I'm in your pod. The answer is no.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Generally, how these silence effects work.
That's not resolving.
Panic button.
Yeah. But it's sweet, and just having access to a higher density of 2 mana Grand Abolishers is huge for the format, and it's gonna help increase win percentage in tournaments. I think just having access to this makes a big difference.
Yeah, you're totally right. The last list that I wanted to kind of shout out, or I think that this is going to make a lot better, or we're going to see a lot more of too. I don't know about you, but I've seen some Dahada out here in the wild, a lot more the past 1 or 2 weeks even. And that whole Mardu summer movement was started because of people just be like, wait a minute, interaction. I care about interacting with my stuff and only protecting my stuff. So like might give us that critical mass to just say like, you know what, I'm just going to go turbo good stuff until I find a silence effect and try to bring Mardu Summer back. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. I'm not going to admit to the fact that I have another tab here open where I have Tymna Jessica being brewed once again, because now you have, I mean, just the pure, you know, quantity of silence effects has now gone up another level. Because right now we got Ranger Captain, Grand Abolisher, Silence, we got Voice of Victory, we got Revel in Silence, we've got Hope of Girapur, we've got Vexing Bauble, we've got Boromir, I mean, just the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
Right? Every turn I can play a silence effect in Mardu at this point. It's just ridiculous.
And not to get too off track here, but there is just something about like playing Mardu or just non-blue colors in general and being able to just red elemental blast the person that's going for it, like haha, or Tybalt's Trickery, like response value silence.
The Mardu player had it? What?
Yeah. But I think there is actually some weird value where if you're in Mardu and you're throwing a defensive silence on the stack, you can sell that to your opponents and like, hey, I'm not going for some instant speed win. I'm just literally trying to protect this, and you're still able to draw out interaction from whoever's trying to go for it, you know? So
yeah,
I should know. Silence is my least favorite card in the game.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, so I think Mardu has a real shot again. So I'm excited to see if we can make that happen. But by the same token, interaction is also worse right now because of cards like the next card, Mistrise Village, which is a land. It enters tapped unless you control a mountain or a forest. It taps to add blue, and you can pay blue and tap it, and the next spell you cast this turn can't be countered. Not creature spell, not creature type of a certain kind, not instants and sorceries, any spell. Whatever your next spell is, can't be countered. What do you think, dude?
So I think a lot. First of all, this is just insane. But it's also interesting because like the fact that it does come in tapped sometimes means that it's not a totally free effect. You know what I mean? And so I've seen some controversy actually about this one where there's 2 camps of thought. One camp being like, oh, you're never going to have the extra blue plus tapping this and then going for your Nas, especially in a world where you don't have Dockside, you don't have mana Crypt, you don't have extra mana lying around often when you're going for it. So the other line of or school of thought is obviously that this is just insane. Like I think I put on Twitter somewhere like for some reason I feel like Wizards while they're creating this card were like, should we limit it to like instants, maybe sorceries or even creatures perhaps, because it's, you know, splashing some red and green in there, and someone was just like, nah, dude, F them. Any spell, they're good.
I mean, it's interesting because we're in a weird meta right now where we're kind of seeing the rise of huge mana decks, not like big mana decks, but huge mana decks. We've got Kinnins and Rogthras and TNT just running havoc everywhere. I mean, those decks have just taken over the meta. We're seeing them everywhere, and they have so much mana. They have massive amounts of land. They have Gaia's Cradles that tap for 10 mana. I mean, just mana pouring out from everywhere. So I look at this card and I'm like, so first of all, everyone's running crop rotation right now. So it's really easy to get this. And second of all, like having the 2 blue mana available is kind of trivial, especially when you're using it to, cast a Court of Calling, for example, for the win. Right. So I can Court of Calling using this. It's uncounterable. I put a Grand Abolisher in play. Game over.
Yeah.
So I think people are sleeping on it. I think people are, it's one of those things where new cards come out and people are trying to go against the grain and like, this one seems too powerful. Maybe there's like a catch to it.
Yeah.
Let's look at it from a different angle. I'm like, nah, I think we can just look at it for what it is. This card is going to break games open. Which is which by the way is like, first of all, like in a vacuum, you're like, oh, Wizards, come on guys, why would you didn't think about this at all? Like, there's no like repercussions here. Like it's any spell, there's no limitations. But on the other hand, it's actually good for us because games need to end more. We need ways to push through this slop, and this card's going to be great for that.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. So like, first of all, it's just so funny how like anytime something potentially broken like this will come out, that for some reason us as cEDH players just like are always for some reason having some part of our community that's like, nah, that just can't be good. Like, you're born upon a win. When that card first was spoiled, like very few people were excited about it like at all. Even for a couple of months after it was legal, no one. I feel like it took some people doing the necro thing for it to actually catch on. But I think he made some really good points about Mistrise Village, especially considering like where we feel like the meta is actually going to be swinging with the rest of the cards that we're talking about in this set, right? Like there's that new Grand Abolisher effect that's really good. There's other cards another card, one specifically that I'm thinking about, the green one, that I think is going to create more opportunities, especially for decks like Kinnan, or really I think the winner, chicken dinner, whatever, is going to be the Rogthras. The Rogthras has gotten so ridiculously powerful. It's a deck that's already mulliganing specifically for crop rotation, right? Where your entire game plan is just getting out of Gaia's Cradle. So a lot of times they're playing Expedition Map, they're playing Urza's Saga to get maybe Expedition Map, if not Candelabra if it comes in tapped. God forbid, right? Or even like Sylvan Scrying. Yeah. Yeah, like I think there's so many decks that care about lands specifically. But yeah, all you need is blue, and this is immediately playable. So the alternative of that is like decks like Dockside might see a huge comeback. I mean, in my time on Dockside, I think Conqueror's Flail was a card that was actually like a huge sleeper in the list. Just because like the ability to have that Grand Abolisher effect in Sans White piles that are like super aggressive leaning like that, or what about like Rao even,
yeah
I think that the turbo decks are going to see a huge upswing for Mistrise Village. Maybe you're allowed to cut just a piece of interaction even if you want to get greedy with it, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, Mistrise Village is just going to make the best decks even better.
Yeah, I agree. And what's people think about turbo and they think about this card and like, oh, it's a tap land. Guys, look, the days of turbo where you're like, I'm going to win on turn 1, I'm going to win on turn 2. You're just not doing that much anymore. It just isn't happening. What you are doing is you're trying to seize a window and win through multiple Ristic Studies and Remoras and everything else. And this card gives you the ability to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it makes me think a little bit about, like, to your point about it coming in tapped here. It's like, well, Undercity Sewers has been proven to be phenomenal, or like Hedge Maze, or whatever's in your colors. And also, like you mentioned earlier, these decks that play the Smothering Tithe, TNT, TNK, or Kinnan, that's just, Kinnan. It's abnormal for that deck to have less than 11 mana on turn 2. or Rogthras, or decks that get to play rituals already, that you're going to have the extra mana laying around.
Yeah, exactly. And or just being able to cast an uncounterable Smothering Tithe is just, I mean, it's so juicy. How could you not want that? And everyone's like, oh, but you have to wait till turn 4. I'm like, in this day and age, a turn 4 uncounterable Smothering Tithe seems pretty good to me. Right? That's not so bad, guys. It's not so bad. So, but that leads us to the card you mentioned a minute ago, which I think is might even be, in my mind, the best card in the set. I think.
Ooh, I think it's up there.
You want to read it?
Yeah. Okay. So this one's Nature's Rhythm. So it's a sorcery with X green as its mana cost. It says search your library for a creature card. Doesn't care about human, non-human, whatever. With mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. A little extra text too. Harmonize X green. So 4 green pips here. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its harmonized cost. You may tap a creature you control to reduce that cost by an amount of generic mana equal to its power. Then exile this spell. That's so insane.
This card's so broken, dude. It's so broken. People don't realize how broken this is. Like, I'll give it to you from a TNT perspective, right? So TNT, you often find these situations where, like, all right, I'm able to get Hazel's Brewmaster, Devoted Druid online, and but unfortunately, I can't find a blue pip. I can't quite win. I don't have Thrasius, so I can make infinite mana, but I can't win, right? This card lets you get the outlet after you get the card that gives you the infinite mana. Because now I have infinite green, and I can just cast the other side from my graveyard and get whatever the hell I need, right? Yeah. And on the same card. It's 2 tutors on 1 card. It's bonkers. This card is bonkers.
I think the only settling part about this card to me, and it's really not settling at all, mind you, it's the fact that like 4 green pips is kind of a good bit. Well, until we're talking about like the Rogthras, where they're playing Gaia's Cradle, Candelabra, like the other Gaia's Cradle, the enchantment flip one. Like, green pips are nothing in these big mana decks that are already playing all the medium green effects, or Smothering Tithe for that matter, like TNT. So
yeah, plus they can get whatever card they need to generate enough mana to cast it again. It's like it chains itself, which is just incredible. And it completely replaces Invasion of Ikoria, guys. You should sell it now. Put those cards in TCG Player, get rid of them, because no one's going to play them anymore. They're pushed out by this card.
Really?
Can you imagine a situation where you'd play Invasion over this? I can't.
Well, so like if we're talking about if this is better than Invasion, I probably agree with you for sure, right? But my take on it is a little bit different. Is just that Invasion is unique enough where it doesn't get hit by your miscasts, your Swan Songs, your Cluster Storms, and a lot of times your decks in the lists that really abuse these straight to the battlefield tutor abilities, they don't really even care about if it's a non-human or not. So I think really this is oh yay, another one of these effects, much over this. It'll be interesting. I'm gonna have to watch the stocks now on Invasion to see if you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased in the sense that I always think about it from the standpoint of TNT, which is what I'm playing the most right now. And I look at Invasion and I'm like, this card's almost unplayable because everything I want to get is a human. Devoted Druid's a human. The Abolishers are humans. Ranger Captain's a human. All of those cards are humans. The only thing I can really get is I can get the Seedborn Muse and I can get Hazel's Brewmaster. Right? So Invasion was already kind of fringe, but how much density of these effects do you want? So you think about it now, you've got Invasion, Finale, Chord, Nature's Rhythm, right? And then you've also got Green Sun Zenith, you've got Neoform, you've got Eldritch Evolution, right? So many of these to the battlefield effect. That's not even considering things like, Birthing Pod as well. And Fiend Artisan. I mean, the density is just enormous. So how many of them are you going to run in your deck? And if you run too many of them, then you run the risk of having that hand where you have 4 of them and someone plays an Oppo and you're like, well. So I think that this pushes Invasion, which was already on the cusp of being pushed out, all the way out. Like, I think very few decks are going to run this plus that. Like, I think there'll be some pilots who, for whatever reason, they decide that they really want one that isn't susceptible to Swan Song and miscast, like you said. But I think most people are going to want this over Invasion going forward.
You're probably correct that it's going to be a more powerful card altogether. Like, I don't think it's necessarily always correct to evaluate cards and when we're looking at spoiled cards, or really just in general when brewing, on a basis of how easy is this to be stuffed. It's a factor, but I don't think it's a leading factor. I think it's more of like a subcategory of the card, right? But the other point when we're directly comparing this to Invasion is just that Invasion does allow you to search your graveyard. So both Invasion and Finale have that effect, specifically like in a deck like Kinnan. Let's say if that Oppo does come down and you're like, oh great, well, I'm just going to take this dumb creature back from my graveyard then, I guess, Yeah, I could see it getting pushed out more in like multicolor decks, three to four plus color lists, like TNT for some of the reasons you mentioned. But otherwise, I just strictly see this going in maybe over like a Neoform, but I'm kind of already not playing Neoform in most of the medium green lists. So
fair enough.
Either way, it's busted.
Yeah, card is so busted. Good. So freaking good. These next two are interesting cards. I don't think they're staples by any stretch of the imagination, but they're interesting. And the first one we'll do the green one first, and that's Steward of the Harvest. That's a green and 3. It's a 3/3 human druid. When this creature enters, exile up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard. Creatures you control have all activated abilities of all land cards exiled with this creature. So interesting.
What's your take realistically? Like, where do you see this getting played? Do you think because I definitely would say that we need to know about this one, right? But it's kind of like set it, forget it, mostly. So where do you think this might see some play? If not, someone out there finds a way to just break it.
So I think the deck where it's a shoe-in is Lumra.
Oh, I had the exact same thought.
Yeah, I think nice. Lumra players are jumping out of their seats for this card. I mean, it's exactly what they want. All right, fills their graveyards with all kinds of amazing lands that this can turn their dorks into, and it's so good. It's so good. Yes. The other dynamics with this card, like, I think are decks yet to be really put together. I mean, your first thought, right? When I looked at it was Rogthras, Gaia's Cradle, exiled. Now I have 5 Gaia's Cradles or whatever it is. Cool. But I don't, getting Gaia's, once you put Gaia's Cradle in the graveyard there, that's not where they want Gaia's Cradle, right? And you don't want a card that's profiting off of you being in the worst state you could possibly be in for your deck, which is Cradle in their graveyard.
Unless if you wheel into it and that, why are you taking game actions to get to that point?
Exactly. Yeah, not a good state of being, but where it could be interesting in things like Shifting Woodlands, right? So cards that are built to play in the graveyard where you want to entomb things so that you can Shifting Woodlands them back, or Agatha's Soul Cauldron them back, or things like that. This card could do some really interesting things there, right?
You get a Mistrise Village.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I'm thinking like, Sultai decks, right?
You've crop rotted one too many times. You accidentally sacrificed all your good lands.
Yeah, but like, you play your Shifting Woodlands, you turn your Shifting Woodlands into, I don't know, a Necropotence, and then it gets blown up immediately, and you're like, well, shit. Well, I guess I'll turn all of my creatures into Shifting Woodlands, and then I'll do whatever the hell I want. Right? It just, gives you interesting plays. I don't know if it's good or not. I don't know if you could really make that work, but definitely in Lumra, and there's probably will be some shenanigans, around this card somehow.
Yeah, most likely. I guess so. I'll take his last one. So because I had it pulled up here. This one I think is really interesting. So the Naga Flesh Crafter. So it's a creature. This is a clone effect for 3 and a blue. It just says you can have it enter. It's a May, so you may have this enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. Otherwise, it's 0/0. Don't know why you'd want that. The interesting part about it, though, is this renewability. So this one says for 2 and a blue, you can exile the card from your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on target non-legendary creature that you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of that creature until end of turn, activated only as a sorcery. So, like, what? Bloom Tenders? Are we thinking?
Oh,
There's
no.
got to be
Here's
some way to break this.
Here's my dream. All right, let me tell you my dream. This is the dream I have. At some point in my life, I want to experience this. Okay, I exile this from my graveyard. I happen to have, 3 or 4 dorks and my commander in play and an Orcish Bowmaster, and then I'm gonna go make all of my creatures Orcish Bowmasters, and then I'm gonna cast Windfall. And of course, I'm going to protect it with a Mistveil, village, so you can't counter.
It's got to be the Mistveil village. It can't be the new Grand Abolisher, because that guy's going to be an Orcish Bowmaster now.
Right, exactly.
So are the 1/1 red warrior creature tokens that it created.
Right.
It's just so funny.
Yeah. But that's what I want. I want 7 Orcish Bowmasters when I Windfall, and just laugh at the table.
Oh my god. That just sounds like a nightmare. I think at least 90% of the community can agree Orcish Bowmasters is just a miserable Magic card. Like, we all get it. It's nowhere near the top problem in our format, but it's just like, oh god, and your dream is just to make freaking 12 of them.
That's right. I want everyone to suffer like I've suffered. Yes.
It would be even cooler, to be honest, if you were able to somehow, I know it says activate as a sorcery, but if you could somehow break that sorcery restriction and do it like in response to like a Thrasios activation or something that's just like a Gitaxian probe. It's just like, how did I get here?
Take 7, wipe the board, everyone dies. Yeah. Love it. But I mean, it's an interesting card. This is when I think there's got to be some combos around this that do some crazy stuff here. I got to think about it a little bit.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I feel like with decks that are kind of doing like the Entomb thing, maybe even lists. I don't know why, but it came to my mind. Like, I feel like there's got to be some type of way that deck Gale with the black background that already really cares about its graveyard, or maybe lists that are just kind of like Marchesa, the Grixis one, that's like always whenever you're committing crimes, you're putting stuff in your grave, kind of digging stuff out like that. Maybe you get to play Dragon's Rage Channeler. You're able to put this into your graveyard, and then, like you said, if there's an Orcish Bowmaster laying around, I mean, we're joking about it, but that actually would be completely disgusting. Really, there's got to be a number of creatures. I don't know if you would ever want to have your whole list built around this card as like your primary combo or whatever. But there's got to be some really cool stuff to do with it, if not now, perhaps in the future.
Well, I think we're on the cusp of Hermit Druid being a thing again, right? Because there's so many effects that let you turn creatures on the battlefield into abilities that are in the graveyard, right? You've got Shifting Woodlands, you've got Agatha's Soul Cauldron, you've got Hazel's Brewmaster, all of which let you do things like Entomb a Hermit Druid and then create a food token that lets you do the thing immediately. Because the challenge with Hermit Druid was always the fact that it doesn't have haste, right? So you play the Hermit Druid, everyone's like, well, we have exactly 1 turn cycle to get rid of that thing or we lose, and you always find a way to get rid of it, right? This, there's lots of ways to get around that now, and this kind of has the same thing, right? You can cast a Hermit Druid, right, and then exile this from your graveyard, and then turn all your other creatures into Hermit Druids have already been on the battlefield and activate them, right? That kind of stuff. So,
endurance and response, I'll Hermit Druid again.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do love the Hermit Druid call out there, because I've had a similar thought with like the Agatha's Soul Cauldron and like all these other effects like that you mentioned. They're kind of already good to be on. They're not like the uncuttable slots or like auto includes usually. But if the rest of your deck can kind of vibe with them, that really is definitely something to look out for. And at its floor, this card is just a 4-mana clone. So what's that one? It's like an octopus or like and it cares about even CMC and it mills stuff and just rips stuff. Garuda, there it is. Yeah, great Garuda card.
Garuda plays this card for sure, 100%.
Oh yeah,
100%. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that's actually absolutely crazy for them too, because now, it gives you all kinds of interesting finishes. Like having Bowmaster be a finish in that deck actually makes sense, right? Because you mill everything out, then you turn everything into Bowmasters, then you wheel, and you can actually do it. It's actually doable.
Yeah, and like realistically, this is also probably just a really good, solid Kinnan card as well, because like Kinnan just loves those clones. I mean, a clone that you can flip into that's able to become a Thrasios is so important, especially when it's like Basalt, you have one spin. Here's hoping. You know, there's Thrasios laying around everywhere these days.
Sick. Yeah, I think the card's legit. I think all of these cards will see some play. You know, honestly, I think the 5-mana green one will see the least, but they're all playable. Oh, actually, I'll take that back. The dragon will see the least, but then the green one.
That's just because Stacks is such an uphill battle.
God, I hope I see it the least.
Do you think someone, I think it was like Forcon, shout out if you're listening. His Discord, like, status is always, I remove Stacks pieces for fun. That's what that dragon card makes me think of.
Yeah, hell yeah.
You're just swordsing or chain of vaporing it on site. You don't even care if you're just blowing out the game and losing. It's like, nope, get it over, end it.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, I mean, those are the cards so far. There's still some spoilers left to go, so maybe we're missing the best card of all. Like maybe the One Ring 2 is still coming. I don't know, but you know, this is what we see so far that I think are relevant cards. If you're watching this and I'm like an idiot and I missed like a card that's amazing, feel free to tell me that in the comments or whatever. But
they're gonna release like some ridiculous card the day that you post this.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know about that card, guys. It wasn't announced yet. I'm sorry. But with that and predicting and trying to guess what's coming, we're approaching April. And according to what I've heard and what everyone's heard, the Commander panel is going to talk about bans or unbans. I think unbans only, right? That's what they said. Right. There may be some unbans coming in April. And I think it might be fun to try to guess. What do you think is going to get unbanned?
So I don't know if this is probable, like at all, but immediately when you're like, hey, this is what we're going to be talking about, I had the thought, what if all of those people that bought up those fast bonds last year are immediately rewarded? And they just rip it off and they're like, hey guys, you know what? Have a ball. Here's fast bond.
I mean, I bought one, so I have a fast bond.
Did?
I got a fast bond. I got a Leovold. Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be such a good shakeup.
Yeah, I think that there's a chance they might actually. I'll start with a little bit. So some of the more exciting hot takes, right? I think there's a small chance they might be unbanning Hullbreacher, just because people are complaining in Commander. I believe at every level about Rhystic Study. You know, or all these draw effects, and now it's like, oh, save us from this XYZ. The problem would be that they would have to likely ban it, keep it banned for levels 3 and below, right? But even if it's like a level 4, level 5 card or one of the game changers, whatever, I think there's a decent chance.
Oh, so, I love that.
Yeah, me too. Are you kidding? Wheels are fun.
People think I'm crazy. I think Hullbreacher. Or Hullbreacher.
It is like Worcestershire sauce. You just can't say the card name.
Hullbreacher was good for the format. It was amazing. It was a fantastic card because everyone had to think carefully about Rhystic Study. Like it wasn't a sure thing. Oh, I'm going to slam my Rhystic Study and just sit on it for the rest of the game. Like you had to be mindful of whether or not Hullbreacher could come down, and it wasn't a slam dunk that playing a Rhystic Study was winning. Like you had to keep that in the back of your mind. Every time you cast a wheel, you had to think about it. Like it was a good card. It made people play carefully, and it also opened up interesting decks that didn't exist. Right, the whole Opus Thief concept. You know, being able to play a deck that wants to drop Notion Thief, wants to drop Hullbreacher, and wheels. Right, that concept of deck died when Hullbreacher was banned. So it would be interesting to have that back. That would be really cool.
Oh, absolutely. Cool. So actually, I think that if we do see this world, here's a hot take, I guess, a little bit. Times 2, doubling down on this Hullbreacher idea. I think that Thras Vial becomes extremely dangerous. Thras Vial kind of has all the cards that you already want, with the red cards for the wheels, obviously, the blue for and black for your Orcish Bowmasters, Notion Thieves, Hullbreachers. You get to even play cards like Burning Inquiry in these types of shells. Sure, you miss out on, what is it, the Tithe Collector or whatever. Come on, no one plays that anymore. The big one being Smothering Tithe, but that spell should never resolve anyway. And Thrasios does such a great job guising the like end step effect for your Hullbreachers, your opposition agents. So like, it's like a cross between Curious Control and maybe Opus Thief could be played again. But then the upside of that too is if you're stuffing your deck full of wheels and like freaking burning inquiries, which is just awesome, then you might want a list that has things like Shifting Woodlands, or some of these other effects where kind of like what we were talking about, like even if it's Finale of Devastation, Invasion of Ikoria, or that the new one, Rhythms, Nature's Rhythm, just for that harmonize piece of it, where you're able to leverage a lot more graveyard stuff, maybe 6. Like we've not seen much 6 since it came out, and that kind of shifting things to making wheels much more played, I think would make a ton of cards that we're not like really playing right now super fun, super viable, and I'm totally for it.
That's a deck I would play. That sounds amazing.
Oh yeah, I would probably just do the same thing but in Yidris because YOLO. It's cool.
Yeah, I think the big question everyone's asking though is not even about Hullbreacher, it's about the big three, right? I think we're pretty sure at this point Nadu's not coming back, right? But
I hope.
Yeah, but then we've got the big three, which is Crypt, JLo, and Dockside. And my money's on Dockside staying banned forever. I think we're going to see, there's a strong possibility we see JLo and Crypt come off. I think at least JLo, but I'd like to see both come off, honestly. What do you think?
I think there's a really good chance, just like looking at it from a financial angle. I mean, both of these cards make Wizards a bunch of money. So it makes sense for them to come off. But then especially with the way that we now have the bracket system, I think the fast mana effects are perfectly fine. Like realistically, Mana Crypt, I don't know if it's ever been an okay card. You can make the same argument for Soul Ring, right? There's been so many debates online already about this. I don't want to beat a dead horse. But ultimately, I think Crypt is kind of okay. And actually, I think it does a pretty decent job, especially with where the meta's at right now. I think it does a good job of almost equalizing and making games a little bit more even. I've definitely noticed post bans how it feels like the power shift for seats 1 and 2 got even more dramatic because players 3 and 4 just never have a turn 1 Rhystic Study, or are able to set up super rapidly like that, which is really where Crypt was broken. I also think that it makes Ad Nauseam singularly way more powerful, which it's my favorite way to play the game, right? Especially if we're able to just snipe it with a Mistrise Village. Now it's uncountable. We need extra mana laying around for that card to be good. It makes sense for them to give us some extra mana so that people get more excited about it. Crypt is probably the one that, of the two, I agree, is less likely, even though I think it is pretty likely. Just because, I don't know, it's been a little quiet since for the past 6 months? Was it 5 months, 6 months, or something like that?
I think it's almost September, right? So 6 months, yeah, over 6 months.
Wait, actually, it was the last time I was on here.
Yeah, so. That's right. But I think we need it. I think it would be so good for the format. I mean, everyone's bending themselves in the pretzels right now, trying to figure out how to reduce the number of draws that are happening in tournaments. We're trying to make draws worth 0 points. Let's do the Haruya wager system. Let's make it a cultural thing to try to win instead of drawing. And I think none of that really will get the job done quite like changing the pool itself and having it be more viable to just fucking win. Right? It's just so hard to freaking win the game right now. Put all the other stuff aside. Everyone has so much interaction and draws so many cards. Like you need to get under those draw engines, or you need to get through those draw engines. And if you combine some of the cards we talked about from the new set with unbanning some of these faster, the fast mana, that's the ticket. That's how you win games more often.
Mm-hmm. And it's like they gave us that not too long ago too, the rotation of the flares, both red flare and blue flare being pretty, and actually even flare, I think it's Masker or Malice or whatever, the black one. Really, all three of those are super playable. They already gave us a little bit more free interaction. If I'm looking at it from a corporate, C-suite level overview, they gave us some free interaction. I think that kind of gives some justification to giving us some more broken fast mana. The only problem is that I don't believe they really make ban or unban decisions based on tournament magic.
No.
Because we're all down here like, please God, no more draws. You know? But it really ultimately just depends on what like the average consumer sentiment is for Commander at large. So
yeah,
come on, guys, Crypt isn't that bad.
yeah, no, I agree. I think it's all good stuff. I think there's probably also going to be a bunch of unbans of cards that I don't give a shit about as well. I think there's going to be, maybe Coalition Victory. And the one that I think everyone wants that I also don't care about is Primetime. Primeval Titan. I just don't care about that card at all. That's another card that will take Lumra to the S tier.
That deck is already kind of cracked. I'll be honest. I think it's so hard to stop and interact with. Like, if you're not Force of Willing their Amulet of Vigor, you're probably just losing if you're not getting under them.
Yeah.
It's already kind of a cracked deck. And like we were saying, it's getting some fun tools here. I don't think they're really going to make a huge difference because the deck is already so good. But another card, I guess, that I was thinking about that is likely going to get unbanned is the Intuition one as a Gifts Ungiven. That card, honestly, is fine. Like, Intuition is not playable in most blue decks anyway.
Yeah,
the argument definitely exists that it makes blue farm even more powerful. But realistically, I would bet there's going to be a pretty close to 50-50 split of Necrom pilots on whether they even play Gifts Ungiven. There's so much broken stuff, and every single time we get a new toy like this new Grand Abolisher, Voice of Victory, let's say, that's going to be a way more powerful card than Gifts Ungiven, and it just gives lower colored decks a chance to have some more fun.
I'd be fine with that one. Yeah.
I'll throw in another one. I really just hope they unban Grizzlebrand.
Why wouldn't they? It's a perfect card for cEDH. It's broken.
Yeah.
We want that.
It's broken. It's clunky. I don't know. It just seems really fun. Like,
makes Reanimator like a strategy again, right?
Yeah, like even like we were talking about the Thrast Vial, if they do the Hullbreacher, screw it. If they don't do that one, if they just give us Grizzlebrand, maybe that's still enough reason to do all this Burning Inquiry dumb stuff.
Hell yeah.
But instead of Hullbreacher, you're just trying to Orcish Bowmaster or find your Reanimate or whatever. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think there's so much room for them to do this now too, because the bracket system really, I never really talked about it on the podcast, but I think the bracket system is genius. It's got some rough edges that have to be figured out, but for the most part, like, it opens up what we've been asking for all along, which is a separate ban list. I mean, that's really what it effectively does, because it allows you to have a list of cards that are only playable in cEDH or bracket 4, which is cEDH light in my opinion.
It's diet cEDH.
Yeah, diet cEDH, exactly. Yeah. So it solves the problem, which is you can now look at a card and say, do casuals like this card? No. Is that a reason to ban it? No. Right? You can keep that card on the Game Changers list. It can be a bracket 5 playable card, and we can go do the broken things that we all love to do and create these complicated games that are just a blast. That's what we're here for. I mean, I'm not here for combat damage. I don't want to swing at you and deal 120 damage and combat damage to the table. And I'd rather shoot myself. Like, it's just miserable.
Yeah. But if you mentioned Jetmir earlier,
right?
Like the whole deck's design.
Yeah, that's what that deck does, exactly. Although it does it pretty quick, but still, that's not the game we're here to play. We're here to play crazy combinations that no one thought of and break games open with cards that do things that you're like, this can't be legal. That's what I want to play.
Yeah, that's why I feel like making specifically, and I don't mean to like beat a dead horse here again, talking about wheels too much on this episode, but I mean, wheels kind of do that. They create this element of chaos where it seems magical when people are able to piece these huge storm turns together while using wheels. Meanwhile, some people just obviously the worst part of the wheels is it really is a roll of the dice. You might draw 7 lands, you might draw 0 lands on turn 0 for you. Like, these are all possibilities, but they create opportunities, especially if there's going to be other cards like Grizzlebrand or, Hullbreacher or whatever, more effects that kind of just layer with these cards that do really powerful things, but don't necessarily end games.
Yeah.
You know, then we're able to just extract more fun for the average game of cEDH, which if I'm Wizards, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, the thing that everyone talks about when they talk about cEDH is variance, right? The fact that one game can be vastly different from another, even though you do everything perfect and you play your cards sequenced exactly right and you keep a perfect hand, weird stuff happens and you lose the game anyway. And that can be frustrating, and that inconsistency can be frustrating. But what these big cards do, these powerful cards do, is decrease variance because you have a higher density of those kind of effects in the format. Whereas when you ban cards and you lessen the amount of those kind of broken cards in the format, you end up with games where you can't consistently do exciting broken things that win you the game. So having more of those effects in the format is a good thing for us, I think.
I think you're absolutely right. And even like with my own personal experiences, like post bans, like I was mentioning earlier, I've noticed that the swing for seats 1 and 2 just winning such a higher percentage of games, I think is it ties right into that variance factor of like with more broken cards, you're allowed to force yourself to think harder about what lines or opportunities are available with each mulligan that you throw back, which if you're making higher pressure choices and there's more good choices to make, it's harder to make the great ones. It's pretty easy right now to be like, oh look, a turn 2 Smothering Tithe or a Rhystic Study, like, yes, we're keeping this hand.
Yeah, or it's like, not that, so I'll throw it back. Oh, still not that, I'll throw it back. Okay, there's one, keep it. And like these simplified mull decisions, I think also it takes a higher level of skill to play in a format where there's more of those good hands to keep, because you're not looking for the same thing every time. You're analyzing the pod. You're thinking, okay, what does this hand do in this pod, right? And does that make it keepable? Instead of just being like, does this make Rhystic Study? No, mull. Does this make Smothering Tithe? No, mull. And you're not thinking about the pod. You're almost playing solitaire with your mulligans at this point.
Hey, some people are into that. We've got that Flubs tournament right around the corner where you likely will just stare into the middle distance when it's not your turn, right? Isn't that like the famous one line? But no, seriously, I think we're on definitely the same page, because my philosophy as like a tournament grinder has always been and always likely will be, I am there to have fun as my hobby. And to have fun, we need a game where there isn't that huge amount of variance and like not just like getting completely wrecked. I want there to be strategy. I want all 3 of my opponents to be talking about how they're going to beat me when I'm scary, or I want to be communicating with my 2 allies temporarily about how we're going to stop the guy that's running away with it. And when we have broken cards, we're able to see those swings of power per turn cycle way more.
Agreed, 1,000%. Couldn't have said it better, man. So I think that covers what we're looking to talk about today, and I think you summed it up perfectly. I hope everybody really enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Kevin, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, dude. If you guys enjoyed this, please give us a like, subscribe, check out the links below in the description to the Heisenberg tournament and the Steel City Spectacular, and check us out next time. So thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is great.
Awesome.
See you guys.